Hello YouTube divers, this is WaterEye122 and I want to welcome you all to another episode of Magic Metal Mondays. Today we are going to be doing another album review. We are returning back to Helloween and we are going to be talking about their 1991 album Pink Bubbles Go Ape. One of the most controversial albums Helloween ever released, but if you remember from my Helloween album rankings that I did, I love this album. And you're gonna see why in the review. So I'm not gonna go into too much backstory of this record, but I will say that this is the first album to not feature Kai Hansen. He left the band after the release of Keeper Part 2, and he went on to form Gamma Ray. They're an amazing band. Of course, Kai Hansen's back with Helloween now because, you know, the whole Pumpkins United thing happened, yada, yada, yada. And, you know, this is also the first album to feature new guitarist, Roland Grappow. And in my opinion, he fills in Kai Hansen's void perfectly. He's a great songwriter. He's an amazing guitarist. He has amazing harmonies, too. Now, this album was basically at a low point. This album basically came out at a low point for Helloween. Because at this point, as I've said, Hansen has already left, and Kai Hansen left the band, and, you know, the band was having problems. You know, they had to get some things straight on business sides and management sides. There's a whole video about, like, the backstory of this record, basically a Helloween interview while they were recording their Kids of the Century music video, which was a single off this album. And Michael Kiske basically, you know, did most of the talking. I don't know how to provide links because, you know, I record with my phone, so sadly I cannot provide a link to that video, but I will leave the title of the video in the description below. And it was basically that video that helped me understand this album a little bit more, and hopefully by watching this, a whole lot of you Helloween fans out there who generally don't like this album will basically see where this, or, you know, what the band was trying to go for there. So with that said, now we are going to get into the actual album review. So, on this album, this is a very interesting record. From the album cover, which is, I love this album, but I don't love the album cover. The album cover is like, what the heck is going on? Aside from the nice background, did you really think it was necessary to put a woman in there about to kiss a fish? Or use the fish as a microphone? Heck, they even show it in the Kids of the Century music video, which is just beyond me. But, you know, it is what it is, I guess. But thankfully, the below average album cover doesn't reflect on the music, in my opinion. I know a lot, and like I said, I know a lot of Helloween fans generally don't like this album, but, you know, and to me, that just makes absolutely no sense, and we're gonna get into that. So the album opens up with, like, this silly nursery rhyme type of intro entitled Pink Bubbles Go Ape, and it's basically just like this acoustic interlude intro thingy with just, you know, an acoustic guitar and Michael Kiske on vocals. So yeah, that I wouldn't really classify it as an official song on this record. It's just kind of there. It's just, you know, type of intro. And then we get into the first official song on this album. That is Kids of the Century, composed by Michael Kiske. Oh boy, this song is a freaking gem in Helloween's discography. I do have to say that this is one of the best songs they've ever done. And it's probably my favorite track on this record. There's a lot of great songs on this record to me, and Kids of the Century is definitely one of them. From that chorus to that guitar solo by Roland Grappow and Michael Whitecath. Oh my gosh, it's just freaking amazing. And without a doubt, it's among one of my top 20 all-time favorite metal songs, if you saw my hard rock and heavy metal list that I did. Now the second song is Back on the Streets, written by Roland Grappow, and again, the guitar solos and Michael Kiske voice is just absolutely spot on. This is a little bit more heavier than Kids of the Century, but it's still a freaking kick butt type of song. Now we get a little bit of the slower song on here. Number 1, written by Michael Wyckoff. Again, this is another one of my favorite songs on the album. And yeah, I know that's going to sound a little bit controversial. But Michael Kiske just, I've said this time and time again on this channel. Michael Kiske is one of my all-time favorite singers. I love his voice. And he's probably my favorite vocalist of all time. Possibly. I might make a separate video on that someday. Who knows? Now, when it comes to number 1, the chorus just has such an amazing message. I mean, if you don't believe me, please go look up the lyrics to number 1 and listen to that song with the lyric sheet in front of you. And the way Michael Kiske and Roland Grappow, I believe, sing it is just so good. I love the harmonies between those two here on this track. Now we move on to another song written by Michael Wyckoff, Heavy Metal Hamsters. Goodness gracious, I can't talk today. So yeah, Heavy Metal Hamsters. Now, this is definitely one of the weirdest songs on this record. And a lot of Helloween fans say that this is a very weak song. I don't really think it's very weak. I mean, it's the weakest track on the album by far. But it's not a terrible song. It's actually quite catchy, if you ask me. Really, really great track. It's a pretty good track, in my opinion. Moving on to Going Home, written by Michael Kiske. Michael Kiske, man, he is just showing his songwriting skills on that song. I mean, you include a bass solo from Marcus Grosskopf, a slap bass solo too. Talk about variety, man. You're giving the drums the spotlight, you're giving the 2 guitar players the spotlight, you're getting yourself the spotlight, and plus you're even getting the bass players some spotlight time. That's just so good. I love it when songwriters do that, when they include everybody in the band. And where basically everybody in the band has their own moment within the song. And over the course of my time as a songwriter, I've been doing that a lot more. So yeah, I think Going Home was basically a big influence to me on my songwriting style. Moving on to the next song on here, there are actually 2 consecutive songs written by Roland Grappow, which are Someone's Crying and Mankind. Both are very, very strong tracks. Now, Someone's Crying is definitely brings back memories of like the 2 Keepers albums, where everything was just very fast and very speedy and very heavy, and power metal for that matter. This to me is more of a speed metal track, and on that video that I said at the beginning, Michael Kiske talks about and briefly references this song when he's talking about, like some of the songs on this album are not that different from each other. Like, like if you look at Ride the Sky from Walls of Jericho, or Eagle Fly Free on Keeper Part 2, or Someone's Crying on this album, you could see there's not really that much of a difference there in terms of song style. And, in my opinion, Someone's Crying does bring back a little bit of memories from Keeper Part 1, to me at least. And then Mankind is another really, 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 really great track. And I do have to say, it's probably among the best tracks on the album. The intro kind of starts off like number 1 does, with that little, I don't really know how you call, amplified tire pressure blower up, or whatever you call it. Like volume pedal type of stuff. I don't know what you call it. But then it just goes into a completely direction. And the chorus is just absolutely amazing. Michael Kiske really shows off what he can do when his voice is basically pushed to his limits on the chorus, and it's just great. And then we have an interesting song, and another one of my favorite songs on the album, I'm Doing Fine Crazy Man, written by Marcus Grosskopf, the bass player. And Grosskopf was basically a very once in one, like a very scattered songwriter, if you will. Like, he was never really an official songwriter for Helloween, but he was always a very part-time songwriter for Helloween. He did come up with one of the songs on their self-titled album. That he wrote an amazing track on Rabbit Don't Come Easy, which is entitled Hell Was Made in Heaven. But in my opinion, I'm Doing Fine Crazy Man is his best song. I really love that song. And Michael Kiske vocals is just the cherry on top. And then finally, we come to the last two songs here. The final song written by Roland Grappow is entitled The Chance. And this was actually the song that got me into Pink Bubbles Go Ape, because I randomly came up upon this song and I listened to Michael Kiske's voice and I was like, oh my god, this song is great. I need to check out this freaking album. So, yeah, it was The Chance that made me a fan of Pink Bubbles Go Ape. Isn't that crazy? And then the album ends with a beautiful ballad, Your Turn, written by Michael Kiske. This is one of my favorite Helloween ballads ever. It's just so freaking good. I never get tired of this ballad. And, if it catches me on a day I'm feeling down, it might even make me emotional. So, it's that good. And I definitely say it ends this album off with a bang. So, with that said, that concludes the track-by-track review. Now we're going to get to the final rating. This is going to be a little bit tough. But if you remember from my Helloween album rankings, I placed this one at number 3 on my list behind the two Keepers albums. And it's going to stay that way. I'm going to give this album a 9.5 out of 10. No, I'm sorry, a 10 out of 10. Actually, no, see, it's very tough to rate this, because, how about this? With the nursery rhyme title track thingy, I would give this album a 9.5 out of 10. But without it, 10 out of 10. I absolutely adore this album, and I definitely think it is Helloween's most underrated album. And if you're just getting into Helloween, I'd suggest that this is one of the albums you need to start on. Because Michael Kiske basically shows off his range on this album and all of his vocal abilities. And it was really this album that solidified him as one of my all-time favorite singers. And this is basically the Michael Kiske show on this record, and that's okay. I mean, the guitar solos are great too. There's great drumming by Ingo Schrichtenberg. And, of course, bass solos galore from Marcus Grosskopf. This album is, in my opinion, a very, very strong record. And I definitely don't think it deserves the hate that it gets. So, yes. So, this is a 10 out of 10 without the nursery rhyme, Pink Bubbles Go Ape title track. But with it, it'll be a 9.5 out of 10. So, yeah. With that said, thank you so much for watching, my fellow YouTube divers. This is WaterEye122 signing out, ready to dive into more fun on YouTube. Thanks for watching.